So I'm really happy to just share this space with you, have this conversation with you. And I'm really hoping that a lot of the people watching, that you just get something out of it.
Yes.
So, yeah, just share whatever you want to share,
Right.
as deep, whatever. I don't want to force you to say something you don't. But I just want to like hear from you. So I wanted to ask you a little bit if you can introduce yourself.
Okay.
Why Mona La Chingona? So go for it.
Mona La Chingona, because I'm a fucking badass, but then at the same time, like, I always think of, like, I forgot the name of, like, this dude. I think it's Octavio Paz, I think. He wrote about the word, like, la chingada and chingar and, like, what it meant, and it was very, like, patriarchal, and it's, like, you're either el chingon or la chingada, and, you know, hija de la chingada or hijo de la chingada, and how it was very, like,
Negative.
gendered, but it's, like, but it can also be used as, like, to empower or disempower people, and I felt like, okay, like, I am a badass, although I've been through a lot of shit, like, I still kind of, like, flourished, and I'm still fucking kicking and going, and again, like, even though I still struggle sometimes to, like, validate my own self, like, I know I'm the fucking bitch, like, I'm a badass. So it's just kind of like reinforcing that, like, I am a chingona, and it's kind of like an affirmation for myself. So
Hey, that is so badass.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank
okay.
you, yeah.
And I know that's your IG handle too.
It
So I
is,
like
it
that you're out
is.
there with that.
Yeah. And it was funny too, because even we're doing a professional development on project-based learning, and yesterday we had to write our personal statement, or I don't know what specifically they called it, and it's like, oh, like, what type of educator are you, and, like, use an adverb and an adjective, and, like, what type of population are you serving, and, like, what's your mission, and, like, I literally said I am a chingona empathetic educator that, you know, is striving to, like, serve all students so that they can, you know, like, empower themselves and others and see themselves as agents of change and masters of their own destinies. And a lot of that, like, I got that from, like, Brown Issues, and I know that that's what Brown Issues strives for. It's, like, to empower our youth, knowing that, like, they do have a voice and that they can use their voice to create some social change, either for themselves or for other marginalized groups. So
Damn.
yeah,
Much love, homegirl.
thank you.
So I'm gonna take you back, okay? I'm gonna take you back to Mona La Chingona from, I don't know, you're gonna tell me what age, but I wanted to ask you, did your parents ever give you, like, an age when they said it was gonna be okay, like, for you to have a boyfriend?
Yes. I feel like my mom was more libertina. She was very, and I feel like it's the female experience because she lived so repressed. My grandma said she raised her daughters like a perra because she didn't want her daughters to come out pregnant or leave. You know, a lot of the value in women, and especially, like, Mexican culture, has to do with, like, their virginity and, like, being pure and stuff like that. So I feel like she was trying to be more open, but my dad was very, very strict. So I couldn't wear makeup until I turned 15. I couldn't date until I turned 18. Yes. So,
Damn.
yeah, my dad was hella strict.
That's interesting, because
Yeah.
I was also thinking, I was, like, when I'm asking you, I'm also, like, thinking, like, man, what was, like, my experience as well? And I never got an age. I just knew I could never talk about it. Like, it was like, I just knew I cannot bring this up because it's just, like, I should just not. It would just cause a lot of issues, or, like, why are you thinking about that? And just, like, more of an interrogation.
And that sucks, right? That we can't, like, openly express to our parents, like, about relationships when it's a natural part of life.
Yeah. But that's interesting. That's a trip. Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to deal with a little bit of both the worlds.
Yeah, I felt like my mom really, like, and I'm assuming, again, it's because she lives the women experience. She really tried to, like, make sure that we had a lot more freedom than she did. But then my dad, I'm assuming because he's a dude and he knows what men do. Carla, that's kidding. I felt like I think it was more of, like, him really trying to, like, protect my sister and I from some of the grimy shit men can do.
Actually, this hasn't been a conversation I've had until, like, now, which I'm in my 20s. And I realized that in terms of more of a traditional, like, household, I feel like parents, especially los papás, piensan the worst. Like,
oh yeah,
no, like you cannot, because I already know how ugly, like what intentions the guys have,
yes.
and I'd rather that not happen to my daughter. And I think that's where a lot of that comes from, because they know, like, either this is how I was, or I know guys like that.
Yep.
But man,
but it's like, I feel like instead of like telling us what not to do or prohibiting us, or even like us feeling very uncomfortable to have those conversations with our dads, I feel like they should be able to talk to us about, like, mija, you're going to go into the dating world and this is what you need to look out for. Or this is what a healthy relationship looks like. But parents don't really, sometimes they lack that type of communication with
or
you.
Don't know that as well.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
they're a product of their environment.
Yeah. Okay. You could keep names out on this one, okay? But who was the first boy that you kissed? You don't have to say the name if you don't want to, but just like walk us through how that happened and just how you felt.
Okay. I'll say his name, and it's hella funny too, because it's like, what a fucking small world. So Daniela, Daniela, my student. So her uncle, his name is Gerardo, they call him Jerry. He was my first boyfriend, my first crush, and he was also my first kiss. And the only reason why he was my first kiss was because, I lived in 6th Street apartments, and we were chilling like by my house, and we were all playing like Truth or Dare, and they dared him to kiss me, so we like had a little peck. And that was my first kiss.
Oh, little piquito. That's so cute.
I know. And I was like, I think I was like a 8th grader at the time. So that was my first kiss.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so, you know how I told you, like, there's like, in my household, I could not talk about it.
Yes.
And I was okay with it. I was like, okay, I wasn't really like getting in the mood of that or any of that. This was like in 6th grade. At school, I saw like people, my peers, like starting to hug. But I was like, I knew it's more than a hug. Like, it's not just a hug, just like, hi. Like,
yeah, it means something.
And I was like shocked. I was like, oh my God, a boy and a girl are hugging. And that's how, like, I was like so disconnected from even ever thinking I wanted a boyfriend anytime soon. And like, it wasn't until like 8th grade where I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting used to it. Like, it started in 6th grade, went on 7th, 8th grade.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, this is the thing that like people are starting to date at this age, this and that. But I think that's a lot like of like our first kiss or first relationship start at that age or in the middle school.
Yeah, that middle school, right? When we hit puberty and like all the hormones and shit.
How real was that for you? Like, how real was that relationship or that first kiss? Did it lead to like a serious relationship?
We didn't really last long. Like, to be honest, I feel like we were neighbors, so we all hung out with the same crew, and I think we all still played like the same kids games. Like, we always played, and like I really liked him at the time, but like I don't remember much about it. So I felt like it was more of like that initial like crush, and like I really liked this boy, but then after that it was just kind of like, I don't even know how it ended. So, yeah. Okay. And I think that was the only time we ever kissed. So, yeah.
Okay, I feel like
it was like that, like that little, like, they like, cuddle, puppy love, and like, you don't really interact with each other. Like, we used to, like, hella hang out and play around, but then now that, like, like when you're
hella
dating
awkward.
and hella, yeah, I think it was like that.
Yeah, I feel it. So, growing up, what were some of the ideas that you had about boys or ways that like you felt about them that was like completely wrong in terms of like so far from the truth?
Damn. I feel like kind of like the telenovela type shit, the fairy tale type shit, and it's like it ain't fucking really like that. It's not. I feel like that's how I kind of seen boys, right? And I feel like when I was younger, like, I always aspired to, like, find the boy or find the man that, like, I'm going to marry and, like, have kids and spend the rest of my life with. And I felt like that's how I kind of saw boys and relationships as.
Yeah, and I think in telenovelas, it's always, like, a completely different world. Either a rich guy, poor girl that come together, se casan and everything.
Yeah. Like, I remember... when it was summers, my sister and I had to stay home because my parents were working. They would like stock us up with like a bunch of food, like, fucking cup of noodles and big bags of like tortilla chips and like a can of nacho cheese. And I remember eating cup of noodles, thinking I was eating a fancy ass dinner with my boyfriend that didn't even exist. Yeah. And I was a little girl, like fucking watching PBS Kids and imagining this type of shit. And I felt like I always kind of like dreamed of like, finding a guy that I could love and he could love me and we can have this relationship. And I feel like a lot of it had to do with, telenovelas, shit that I was watching, and kind of like gender norms, right? Where it's like, oh, la mujer is only looking for like a man who could love her and take care of her and be a happy family. And I feel like that's how I viewed relationships.
Damn. Yeah. I think it's also a trip. When it comes to telenovelas, the story's kind of almost very identical. Destilando amor, al diablo con los guapos, all this stuff. Like, there's always like that villain that wants to take your man, this and that. There's so much drama before you all can be together and be happy and live that happily ever after. But when it comes to like American like ideal relationships that we see on like Cinderella movies and all of this, it's also like a different version of how you like lead to happiness with your loved one. It's
and they live happily ever after. Yeah. Dang.
And I know you you mentioned who was your first relationship or your first kiss, but in terms of like your first real relationship, and by that I mean like the first person that like you were with that you said the L word to, like, I love you, I love you. Can you share a little bit more about that? How was that for you? When did this happen?
I don't know, like, if I ever told him that I loved him. But I think I was in high school or like an 8th grader, and his name was Eric. And like, I really liked him. Like, I felt like I did love him because he like was very respectful. He would come and visit me at the apartment and we would hang out. But then he eventually, ended up leaving me for someone else. And kind of like really broke my heart. And I think like he was the first guy that I ever like, really like loved. Like, he was my first love. Yeah. But that ended.
Dang. But do you feel, because I feel like sometimes we might think it's love, but it's just that heartbreak of like, fuck, like this person did this to me and I'm heartbroken. Like, how could you? Do you think that might have played into that? Because, right, you never said I love you to this person.
Like, I genuinely fucking really liked this guy to the point where I felt like this is the guy that I could lose my virginity to. Yes. So, like, I know. I'm like, shit. Yeah. Like, we said we were going to get real and I was going to be, like, true and authentic to, like, who I am and, like, tell my truth. And that's who, like, I really thought that I could give it to. But, he did me dirty. And, that really broke me and, like, broke my heart. But what can you do, right? Shit fucking happens and you kind of move on.
Damn, Eric, if you're watching this, you fucked up.
You fucked up, bro. Nah, just kidding. Don't even trip. Because I feel like, again, I'm in a better space. Like, I know I was a fucking, 8th grader, 9th grader. 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, I believe.
But you know what? I think that is mind-blowing because I feel like at that age, that is your world.
Yes.
You feel everything because, like, that was, like, the person you, like, had really strong feelings for. And I feel like that's the first time you're really trying to, like, you're experiencing what it is to have a partner, what it is to be in love.
Yes, that was, like, my first real relationship, so I get it. Yeah. And then now, like, learning about development and how we as people like grow and mature and what's going on in our brain, like, I totally get why, right? It's like I'm hitting puberty, like my hormones and like all of this shit is happening in my brain, so everything is a lot more heightened, and he's the first person that like I really, really love, so it just kind of makes everything more intense.
Yeah. Was that kind of like a private relationship, or like did people know?
People knew. Okay. Yeah, they knew. Yeah.
Dang. Okay, I feel it. All right. this is a little bit more deep.
Uh-huh.
Can you share a little bit about what were some of your mistakes or like lessons learned from your first couple of like real serious relationships that obviously you feel comfortable in sharing? But I want to like encourage you to like, I really want this to be a space, like if there's any like young women tuning in that they might not have anybody like to talk to about this, can you share a little bit more of like what were some of those experiences that like you have grown from, but you think it's important to have those conversations or just talk about?
I felt like when I started dating, so I started dating when I was 15, even though I couldn't date until I was 18.
And your parents didn't find that at all?
Or no, I think I was dating like earlier. Like, so again, like my first boyfriend was in like 8th grade, and then in high school, and like my mom
That's
knew
like
about
13,
that.
14.
Yeah, and
okay.
like my mom knew about it because again, like my mom was more, I could talk to my mom about things. She was more willing to listen, and she was there. And I felt like when I started dating, I felt like I had to constantly jump from relationship to relationship because I needed a man to love me and to feel loved. And it might have to do with like me, you know, we call it daddy issues, where it's like, you know, my dad didn't really provide a lot of like the social, emotional, like love and support that like I really needed from a father. And I felt like I was kind of looking for that in the wrong places. And like I constantly needed a man to like love me. So I became very codependent on other men. So again, like I used to jump from relationship to relationship. Something ended, maybe like a month later, I jumped into a new relationship. And I feel like that was one of like the lessons that like I've learned now being like an older person. It was just like, you know, I lacked a lot of self-love, and I was looking for love and acceptance in like the wrong places, when it's like I knew that I had to work on learning how to love myself and be alone with myself. I was very codependent on men, and I feel like that's something that I learned. Yeah.
Dang. You said that's something that you learned. How long did it take you to learn that?
Shit. I've been single for like 3 years, so it was literally because yeah, it's like from Eric I jumped to Caesar, from Caesar to Jose Luis, from Jose Luis I jumped to Edgar, and like that was the longest relationship, the most tumultuous one. And then like I was single for like a cool while, and then I jumped into a relationship way too quickly, where it's like I didn't really get to spend like when I should have. So girls, don't jump into relationships quickly. You really have to take it slow, get to know the person, get to know the good, the bad, and not wait. And it's like, is this someone that like I really want to jump into a relationship with? So don't move fast. That's another thing that I learned. Really get to know the person, to know that, is this someone that is going to help you become a better person? Is this someone that like you're compatible with? So that was another lesson that I learned. And then after that, I've been single ever since. And I think it's one of the best things that has ever happened to me.
Damn, but for you to have that self-control to like realize like I need to like just be by myself, learn about myself,
yes,
love myself, and then if something happens, that is freaking beautiful.
Yes, like don't go out searching for it. And I didn't for a long time. And just kind of like enjoy the ride, enjoy being alone, doing stuff that shows you that you love yourself. So I like to take myself out to dinners, and I go to a restaurant by myself, and I take my headphones and I watch a show while I eat my dinner or my food, or I want to do something, and I take the initiative to take myself out. So I'm dating myself. Yeah. And I feel like that's what girls, not even girls, but boys, we all got to date ourselves. You know, like genuinely like learn to love being by yourself, because it's a lot of fun. It's dope. I like it.
Damn. Yeah. Okay. So you shared your first heartbreak.
Yes.
And that person left you. I think there's a different type of heartbreak when you also get cheated on, like the first time. Can you share a little bit more about that experience, how you felt, how you dealt with it? And I know it might happen over and over again with freaking different people, because fuck that. Yes. Fuck, we kind of all go through it. It's fucked up, but we do. But But yeah, just how was that for you and how did you recover from that? Because sometimes it feels like that's the fucking end of our world.
Well, Eric, he had cheated on me and left me for that girl. But again, I was young. I was in high school. But the one that really fucked me up was, again, the when I was with what you would call your college sweetheart. We graduated. We did long distance. We broke up. We got back together. And I had found out that he was cheating on me. You're not supposed to check people's phones, right? You got to be able to trust your partner, right? And kind of something told me like,
just check the phone.
Yeah, you know, you gotta, like Tia Maggie says, you gotta you gotta listen to your gut. And I did, and I saw that, he was sliding on people's DMs, and like that like really broke me and like tore me the fuck up. But I still forgave him and I stayed. And
what did that do to you, and why did you stay?
I fucking love that guy. And even though it was the most toxic relationship that I've ever been with, and again, it could have, or it was that I was afraid to be by myself. I needed other people to love me, to feel loved or worthy. So I stayed, but it really fucked with me. So we were doing long distance because I was in Northern California and he was in Southern California. And he never came up to visit me. I was the one that constantly went down. I would go twice a month to Southern California, drive 6 hours twice a month to see him. But it really fucked with my head. Like, even just when I hit the fucking 27 West, I was already feeling triggered. And on those Fridays when we first saw each other, it was like bliss and I was just so happy. But every Saturday on the dot, I would feel triggered and I would go with him. Because he would go work with his dad at their business and he would never use his phone around me. And when we were trying to like look for things up in our phones, it always had to be my phone. And if he used his phone, it was like on the other side of the room. So, and all of that shit fucks with your head. Like, I was constantly feeling triggered and just a lot of like anxiety, just feeling like shit. And I stayed with him for an entire year. And there was this one day, it was January, it was after Christmas, when I said, all right, Monica, like, if you really love this guy and you want to stay with him, you kind of have to forgive him and you have to let go. So I did. I had bought him like the Bose headphones that he wanted for Christmas. I'd given him that. We went out and we had drinks. We had really meaningful conversations. And I had such a great time. And I was like, okay, I think, we can make this work. And then we go to bed, and this is at his parents' house. And something in me was like, check his phone. And again, you're not supposed to check your significant other's phones, right? You gotta, there needs to be a level of trust. But again, that trust had been shattered. And even like during the relationship, like I kept asking him, like, are you cheating on me? If there's like, I was fucked up in the head where like I was acting a little psycho and toxic because I was so fucked up in the head. But he never like admitted to it or anything like that. So I checked his phone and there he goes again, sliding into other girls' DMs. I ended up hitting up the girl, like saying like, he has a girlfriend. This is what's up. She added me on Instagram. She sent me all the fucking DMs. Like, she sent me the receipts. And like, she told me like, he said he didn't have a girlfriend. She had been through the similar experience as I. So she kind of knew how I felt. So it was in the middle of the night and I woke him up and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Damn.
Motherfucker was trying to play it off like, oh, where's my Monica? Foo, you know what's up. And I did the worst thing that anyone can ever do. And I condone this behavior. You should never put hands on anyone. And I put hands on him. I beat him up.
Damn.
I busted his lip. I scratched his face under his parents' roof. And that's something that I will always regret because I disrespected his parents' home. I disrespected myself. I don't feel, it's like, I feel bad for fucking him up, but at that moment it was like, you motherfucker, you fucking deserve this shit. But again, like, you should never put hands on on someone, especially like a partner. And that's when I knew that I couldn't be with him, but I still stayed, and I felt like shit. We tried to make it work, but again, I was just so fucked up in my head that I couldn't do it. And the only reason why I had the balls to leave him was because at work we were having professional development with Sandy Holman from the Culture Co-op and from Davis, and she always talked about mental health and like how certain shit would make you feel and how you had to take care of your mental, spiritual health, emotional health. And every time that she would talk about it, I would always think about how shitty I felt in that relationship and how I was always feeling negative. I was always so unhappy. Even though I would always go back to see him, I low-key couldn't wait to get back home because I wouldn't have to feel that way. So that's what I feel like gave me the guts to just kind of let him go.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said a lot, and a lot that yeah. I feel like this is what happens often. I think not just saying it from my personal experience, but other like young women I've had the privilege to talk to about like relationships, in terms of just giving advice, younger girls. But I feel like what often is the reason of what we stay is like, oh, we've been through so much. And like, we just been through so much. I just can't let it go. We can make this work and this and that. And I think that's always like something that we go back to. Like, this is the reason like we can stay. We got to know each other in so many different levels, the good and the bad. Let me just give it another chance. Yeah. And then that chance turns into another one, and another one. And
it's the same shit.
Yeah. Same shit, different day.
Yep, pretty much.
I would say like right now, what would be the biggest lesson learned from that relationship?
Well, I didn't really talk about the other shit that I went through with him. I felt like, so very early on in our relationship, he put hands on me. So he physically hurt me. And a lot of it was because he couldn't accept the fact that I wasn't that he wasn't my first, although he was, that whole double standard bullshit, right? And he would put hands on me because of that. He wanted to know who I danced with and how, and he would get physical with me because of it. And I knew that, and when someone hits you, it's not right and you're not supposed to stay, but I still stayed. So I feel like a lesson that I learned is that you need to recognize the red flags ASAP and fucking dip, because I feel like for a lot of us, boys and women including, we see the red flags, but we just kind of, we go blindly and we keep going, but it's like, nah, like they're red flags and this is something that's not okay and it's not acceptable. You shouldn't be taking this, but yet I still stayed. So I feel like it's being able to recognize the red flags, learning to know your self-worth and that you're worthy of love and that someone else, including yourself, can provide that love that you need, and you don't need a toxic fool or female to, bring you down. Like, you could just leave and start fresh.
That's really good advice. Yeah. Recognize those red flags and just fucking
dip.
I think just another thing that came to my mind, and this is me just also my personal like experience, when I was in this relationship and I got cheated on, first time I ever got cheated on, and it was multiple times in the same relationship. Never before this relationship have I ever had any, like, I never thought like negative about me. I never compared myself to other women, other girls. I never until this happened to me, until I was in this relationship. And I started to be like, man, like, why did he do this to me? Like, and I started to compare myself to the girls that I was getting cheated on with. Like, is it because of the big boobs, big booty? Do I need that? Blah, blah, blah. And that really hurt me. That I feel like that is fucking trauma. That stays with you for so many years. Like, what is it that's wrong with me that you couldn't be loyal?
Like, ¿qué tiene ella que no tengo yo?
Yeah.
And that's how I felt too. We've internalized competition with other women, right? Or we see other women as competition again, either because she got the bigger boobs or she got the bigger butt. When in reality, it's like you're beautiful as just you are, and it's like, Kimmy, you are beautiful and I am beautiful, and we have different things that make us beautiful, and that's a beautiful thing. But I think that for a long time, I did see other women as competition, and a lot of the, like, oh, she a bitch, or, just degrading other women down, when it's like, at the end of the day, like, there's this lyric from, like, Snow the Product where she says, like, you're fighting over a bum that, like, throws crumpled up dollar bills to a stripper, yeah, like, come on now, like, why are you in competition with a female over a dude when it's the guy? Or even if it's in reverse, and it's two guys over a girl, it's like, it's not the girl's fault, or the guy's fault. It's your partner who is willing to go out there and do that type of shit.
And you know what, always, like, this is what I saw so very often, and I never wanted to be that. And thank God that I was never that. So I think in terms of, like, I feel like high school relationships, that's when, like, fuck, it's real. Like, like you take that, like, very, very seriously. Oh, yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed, just from relationships that I saw in high school, is that when something like that were to happen, when your partner cheated on you, either, if it was a girl, you wanted to fight the other girl. Yes. You did not talk shit or fight with your boyfriend, but you wanted to beat up the other girl.
Yeah, but it's the motherfucker who fucked up, right?
Yeah, and I think in terms of, like, personally, I never, like, saw it that way. I would never want to get into any beef for a girl. It's just like, hey, homegirl, like, if you feel like telling me the truth, please do. I just want to figure out, like, what's the both story so I could just know. But I don't think, like, personally, just thinking, reflecting back, that if you are in a relationship right now and you're experiencing this, that you should, like, be mad at that person and want to fight that person and get your anger out in that way. Like, do not do that.
Yeah.
I feel like that just, like, brings you completely down, and that's not a good way to handle it. How would you suggest folks should handle that if they're in, like, experiencing that?
So, like, if someone cheats on you?
Yeah, like, and like, yeah, like, how do you handle your anger? Like, where do you let it out?
I feel like you need time on your own to cool off, and being able to recognize, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I want to do, but I know that this isn't right. Let me manage my emotion. What can I do to cope with it? So I know that when I'm upset, I know that I need time to cool off before I have a conversation, because I don't want to go into a conversation already aggressive, because I know it's not going to solve anything. It's just going to make things worse. So just kind of, like, removing yourself from the situation. I feel like if you ever get cheated on, be like, deuces, homie, I'm out, and just dip and, heal. And
you just need that time too. Yeah. That time just to get clarity and just, what do you want in that person?
Yeah, like being able to process those emotions and what's going on.
Okay,
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
How would you define a healthy relationship?
Shit, I've never been in one, but
like, I've done my research. But I think you learn from the bad.
Oh no, definitely, and like, that's what I'm really, like, striving for now. Like, I really want to be in a healthy relationship where I could be my authentic self and they can be their authentic self, and there's mutual